Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there, welcome along. This is Business Connections Live, the program for entrepreneurs, SMEs and business owners. Now, we've got a really cracking show lined up for you today. On today's show, we're going to be focusing on the next sale regardless of Brexit. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, I think, in the business environment, business markets. And I think we just need to put our stake in the sand a little bit at the moment and be a little bit more positive when it comes to what is in front of us when it comes to Brexit. Is Brexit affecting your business at the moment? Are you finding it difficult in your business, or are you just holding back a little bit? We've all got this natural instinct, haven't we, sometimes, where we will sit back and just wait for things to settle before we start to move forward again. Is that where you're finding your business at the moment? This kind of in the doldrums, perhaps, the business doldrums. Joining me in the studio today is Antonio Falco. He is the sales director. You may remember Antonio from previous editions of the program where he came on. He is a pro-Brexiteer, and we were talking at the time about how Brexit would affect different businesses. Antonio, lovely to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Is it okay to call you a pro-Brexiteer? Have your views changed, do you think, since we last talked?
It's okay to call me that, and my views haven't changed. So, absolutely fine. Thank you for having me back on the show.
Well, it's lovely to have you back. Let's go back. You came in on a few of the debates that we had about all of this, and it seems at the moment that there are certain elements out there of people who are holding back when it comes to what they're trying to achieve with business at the moment. What would you say the current status of affairs is?
I think that, yes, people are holding back, and I think that it comes into two different parts, Steve. People are holding back in terms of investment. So at the moment, I think you'll find that there are trillions of pounds sitting in business accounts because businesses want to have as much certainty as possible before they start spending money. And that's natural. I think that's normal. As we were saying earlier, just before we came into the studio, business is all about risk, but it's about calculated risk. And so I think businesses are just not liking this uncertainty, which has been going on for now far too long, which I think is another problem. So you've actually got now uncertainty building up because of time and uncertainty because of lack of what seems to be lack of direction. And I say seems to be lack of direction because I think what we see in the news and what we hear in the news might be slightly different than what's going on in the background in terms of these Brexit negotiations.
There is a danger now that we are in this whole area where everybody's playing politics and people have political careers behind them and in front of them that they still want to explore. And I'm beginning to feel that really it's the politics that are holding the public face of the negotiations back. So you got Bernier, he's standing up there. He has a reputation to hold. He has a particular position to maintain because he is representing the rest of the EU. And we've got Davis who is standing up there, and he's got a position to hold. He's representing us. There seems to be a lot of infighting going on here. There seems to be a lot of posturing going on here. There seems to be a lot of posturing going on in the EU itself. Do you think we are all just playing a game? Is it all just politics and everything will be fine at the end of the day?
Oh, hasn't it always just been a game, Steve? I think we look at, let's just clarify a few things. First of all, if you look at Barnier's position is to represent the EU. He's not actually, so his job is EU orientated, which strangely means that he's not actually representing 27 different countries. So he's actually representing the EU structure, the idea of the EU, what it's been, what it currently is, and where it currently wants to go. And so he's there to try and hold the EU together. But that doesn't mean he's representing the views of 27 countries. Because I think what's really happening in the background is that whilst they're trying to play as hard a game as they can at the front end, I think behind the scenes the 27 countries of the EU actually want to put together an intelligent, sensible agreement for all parties. So I think we have to distinguish between that front person and Mr Barnier, who's got to try and hold the EU ideology together, and the 27 other countries of the EU who actually want to get on and trade and work with us, etc., all together. And they are two distinctly different game ploys.
Do you think that the big problems, of course, are open borders and the trade deal? If we went back to the fundamentals of what was the EU, the
common market,
as it was called, if we went back to the fundamentals of that, do you think that would be the deal that we're really actually looking for?
I think if they'd had asked the public back in 2016, which seems an awful lifetime ago now, doesn't it, Steve? If they'd have said to everybody, look, we'd like you to vote for a common market like the one we entered in 40 years ago, 99% of people would have voted for that. Nobody who's voted for Brexit has voted for no trade with anybody. Nobody's voted to completely get rid of this opportunity of selling to 27 different countries. And by the way, I just want to make something very, very clear, because it's actually incorrect to say that it's a single market. It is not a single market. It's a trading bloc of 27 countries. And I say that distinctly because our single biggest market is actually the United States of America. The EU is 27 different countries in one block, but it's not a single market, and I'll put some meat on the bones.
Just
of that.
define that for us. Yes.
I'll define that for you
because everybody thinks that it's the same rules apply if you're selling to Lithuania than you are if you're selling to Germany.
They don't. And I've got different clients, who are selling products into the EU, and they are not having to deal with the same rules if they're selling to Germany or Greece or Poland. There are different rules applying when you sell to those countries, because those countries have their own set of rules depending on the product you want to sell them. Another example is if you are a web-based company and you are trying to sell your products or services, typically products purely online, you're finding that you're having to set up more than one website, because different countries in this alleged single market have actually got different rules as to how they want your website to appear, be structured, how somebody buys on it. So there are companies having to develop more than one website in order to be able to sell to the different countries of Europe. Well, that isn't a single market, is it?
No.
And when I put that point at a hustings back in the June elections, and I was invited to a couple of different hustings, I put it to, I won't say...
You won't name drop.
I won't name drop, but there's one particular hustings I went to, there was about, I think, 8, 9 different candidates. And when I stood up and said, you keep talking about a single market, it isn't, and let me explain why, not one single candidate disagreed with me. Even the candidate who was a very high-profile candidate who ended up winning the seat back, even he said, actually, you're right, but actually what we're trying to do is we're trying to fix that. I said, you might be trying to fix it, and that's been going on for years, but you cannot stand there and say that we operate in a single market. So he tried to justify that why EU regulations on car engine manufacturing, what have you, which actually is a worldwide standard, not a European one. But so our biggest single market is North America, United States specifically. So coming back to the central theme of this morning, you know, Brexit, is it holding you back? I think it's holding back investment, and people are holding money in their accounts thinking, well, hold on a second, I need to understand where I'm going, because, yes, business is a risk, as I've said, but it's a calculated risk. But I think it's holding people back mentally. And so what I want to say this morning to people is, don't let it stop you getting the next order. Don't let this whole situation stop you advancing your business. Don't let it stop you going out there and prospecting for new customers. Don't let it stop you going out there and asking for the next order. Because whatever's happening, we can't control it. You and I, Steve, cannot control what's happening in the Brexit negotiations, which, by the way, I reiterate, I don't think are as bad as that has been made out in the press.
Having a field day. The broadcasters
of course they are,
having
because
a field
that's
day
what they're... Because nobody's going to actually report. It's actually going quite well, actually. nobody's going to report that 27 countries actually do want to do a deal with us, and in the background, the hundreds of negotiators are getting on rather well with each other.
So why can't
Nobody
they
wants to
say
report
that?
that.
I mean, you do rub shoulders with some of our leading politicians. There seems to be so much infighting taking place with the individuals who are involved with the negotiations. The particular party, the Conservative Party at the moment, seems to be not quite rudderless, but it does give that kind of impression nearly, whether, once again, if that's the press playing on that. We've got the Labour Party, which is rolling on a populist kind of wave at the moment, who will change direction when they feel that that is the most populist direction to go in with the policies that they are bestowing on us. I mean, it's a very confusing time for Joe Public and for the business owner.
So the problem with that, all that in-playing and all that infighting, is that the crossfire, well, we're in that crossfire. That's the problem. You're absolutely right. I think there's an awful lot of politics being played here. I don't think there's any merit in reporting anything good that's happening, because where's the fun in that? I think that, good news never makes them front page, does it? But I think that, I'll reiterate, behind the scenes, I believe it's going better than what it is. I believe our negotiators are getting better in their negotiations than is currently being portrayed in the news. And of course, politicians are all about necessarily attacking each other, aren't they? It's much better play, isn't it, for one leader to attack another leader?
If you say it's black, I'll say it's white.
Because you're trying to appease your core political party, and you're trying to appease your core supporters.
Well, listen, what we're going to do, we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more, we're going to talk a lot more actually to Antonio Falco, the sales director, as he calls himself now, within his business organisation. He goes out, he's a consultant, he works with different organisations about getting out there and increasing sales. And there is this feeling that at the moment we're kind of sitting back at the moment. We are, and as I said, the doldrums, we're just sitting there. We really don't know which way we're going to be going. Listen, more from Antonio very shortly here on this edition of Business Connections Live. Do stay with us. We're live here on a Monday. It's great to have your company as always, and thank you very much for being with us at midday. A little bit late today, but better late, but still great. Let's look back at what happened on last week's edition of Pro. We had a cracking guest on as well. It was Warren Knight, top 100 global influencer in 2017, and also an award-winning blogger as well. He's an author and also a digital entrepreneur. And it's interesting, we were talking about why within this digital world your business will fail by 2020, and what we've got to do is we've got to be aware, we've got to be on top of the game when it comes to what we're doing, and to a certain extent that kind of supports what Antonio is saying. If we're not on top of our game, if we're not being proactive today, well then, regardless of what happens with any negotiations, we're not going to be ready for tomorrow. And that's what we were trying to get over on last week's edition of Pro. It was a good show. He's got a cracking book, cracking once again, but he's got a great book out at the moment. Warren Knight, as I said, is the guy's name. And here are the highlights from last week's edition of Business Connections Live. On today's show, we're going to be discussing, this is a big title, why your business will fail by 2020. The man that's bringing the bad news, I'm afraid, today is joining me in the studio is Warren Knight. He's a top 100 global influencer in 2017. He's also an award-winning blogger, author, digital entrepreneur, and digital transformation strategist too.
The most common thing for me is they're using the wrong technology to achieve an outcome for their style of business. So every business owner is slightly different, and the way that business works. I'm a professional speaker, and there are lots of professional speakers that specialise in social media, digital marketing. There are digital transformation experts that are out there that work from an internal perspective. So they'll try and get the technology of the staff talking to each other. Brands need to focus on one social network, get that return on engagement, get that the time that you put into it, and get them out of that social network into your environment, which is your database. Your database is powerful, and I look at it in three different ways. One, who are your top 20% clients that are bringing in 80% of your business? And what we need to do is look at that database, fine-tune that database in regards to who do we want to keep and who do we want more of, who are engaging with us at the moment and spending money with us, that we know that if we worked hard on our tone of voice to those guys, we could move them up and bring them into our top tier, so our like platinum clients. And those guys that are sitting down at the bottom, that are utilising a lot of our time, that's when we start getting to a decision to say, thank you very much for being a great customer of ours, but in where we are in our business at the moment, I don't think we're in the right place to be able to help you. We need to communicate what it is that we do to our customers, but not, please come and buy from me. It's, come and take a look at how this great case study worked for a client that's in your sector, and look at the results that they got. For me, it's about education. So even if we just simply look at the different social networks that are out there, we have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, these social networks, they've evolved. You look at especially how Instagram has grown. They stole a very simple feature from Snapchat and allowed people to be able to just talk about who they are, tell a story around who they are. Now, if you're going to do a post in Instagram and do 15 hashtags and then automate that out onto Facebook because you haven't got the time to talk to
look right, is it?
It's not going to look right, and as quick as those potential visitors and prospects come over to that page, they're gone, because you're not talking to them in their native environment. And that native communication is so key to businesses moving forward. Well, it's been a real pleasure to be on the 201st edition of Business Connections Live. So thank you very much for that.
Right.
My key takeaways for today are, I would like you to focus on one thing. I've shared today, and I'm going to hold you accountable for that, how that one thing might make a small change in the way that you're using Twitter at the moment. So what I would like you to do is look at one aspect of your business and truly understand whether or not it needs to go through a digital transformation. And I don't mind whether that's your website. I don't mind whether that's you're going over to your Facebook page and actually looking at your last 3 Facebook posts and people talking to you on those Facebook posts and you not communicating back to them. I'd like you just to do one thing and maybe engage with that person. Maybe use your images and tag somebody in something. Maybe look at using email marketing. You have a database of people. I've got a client who's got 1,000 customers that they've never emailed. So guess what we're going to be doing on Wednesday? We're going to be emailing those happy customers about the business. And guess what's going to happen? She's going to build engagement, she's going to build trust with those happy followers and those people that have already bought from them, and she's going to get sales because of it. So I'd like you to take just one action for your business and think about, once you've taken that action and implemented, what is the next one that you're going to take? And just by doing it slowly will help your business go through a digital transformation and not fail by 2020. So I'm Warren Knight. You can come and follow me on Twitter at Warren Knight. You can get me on warren-knight.com website. I have a digital academy called thinkdigitalfirst.com. You very kindly mentioned my book. You can grab this at thinkdigitalfirst.today, which is a different URL landing page that you go to. So you're not going to the website, you're going to the focused landing page of the book. And just come and say hi if you've enjoyed the show. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, or jump over to my website and give us a call. Thank you very much.
Great show, Warren Knight there. If you do get an opportunity to go to one of his talks or one of his book launches, if the invitation drops through the letterbox, then I do suggest you take it with both hands and pop along. He is a very, very entertaining speaker and also a thoroughly nice guy as well. Warren Knight, on last week's edition of the programme, we were talking about really a digital future for your organisation and for your business. And don't forget, there's over 250 other programmes just like that. We've got over 250 hours of great business content for your organisation if you are looking for anything from raising funds all the way through to maybe getting exec director on your board or sales techniques. Antonio himself has done a couple of programs on different sales techniques. Then you can go onto the website and you can watch absolutely for free. And if you're thinking to yourself as well that the actual programs are really valuable, imagine this for a moment. Say you were doing a program like that for your organisation, and instead of sending out a newsletter that invariably people just do not read, let's be honest about it, you send out a newsletter. I don't care. I really don't care. Really what I'm after is something to engage me, to entertain me, to inform me. Maybe the mantra from the BBC, but that's what I'm really looking for. And there are sometimes it's all down, you get a newsletter, it comes out. There's one guy that sends out a newsletter that I receive every week. And just because the text is so close together, I can't bring myself to read it. I just can't bring myself to read it. It just looks too busy. It's not engaging me. But a program like this would engage because you would feel that you've been talked to and you're discussing with the person that's on screen. And that's the power of using video within your marketing. Now, if you'd like more information on how you could have a program like this one for your organisation, well, why don't you get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live? It's dead easy. All you got to do is drop us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com. But more ideally, because we live in a world of one-to-one communication, why don't you pick the phone up and give us a ring? 01784 256 777 is our telephone number. Give us a call on that. That's 01784 256 777. Don't throw the number away. That number is really important. It's important because it may be the first time you've heard it today. It's sitting on the screen. Do it right now. Go on. Do it right now. Pick the phone up. Linda Bazant is waiting in our green room at the moment. She'll answer the call from you right now. And maybe we can start a discussion on how we can grow your business together using the latest technology in a studio like this, completely branded. Don't forget as well, you can follow our stream of consciousness as well at BCL Business TV. You can watch us on a whole host of different platforms at the moment. Everything from Ustream, Facebook page, by the way. You can go to that, get lots of reactions on that. Thank you very much. There is a new business Facebook page coming up. Facebook are out to take YouTube on. It's going to be a shoulder-to-shoulder, chin-to-chin bit of fighting going on there between Mark Zuckerberg and Google, effectively, because that's who own YouTube. And what they really want to do, they want to make Facebook a video platform. But let me say this to you. I was talking to somebody last week about Facebook. Don't think just because you post something on Facebook, it's going to all your friends. You're lucky if it's going to 10% of your contacts on Facebook. So be aware of that. They are out to make this an advertising platform. So, there's lots of things to learn about the way we use Facebook out there. We're also on, where else? Pinterest. We're also on there. Instagram. We're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Where else? Don't forget, go to the website as well at businessconnectionslive.com, and don't forget to subscribe to the programme. You're watching Business Connections Live. It's Steve Hyland with you here, my guest of today's show, talking about focusing on the next sale regardless of Brexit. Joining me in the studio is Antonio Falco. He is the sales director. We were kind of talking about where businesses find themselves at the moment, and the document that you've recently published, your booklet, People, Strategy and Numbers, that is available. That book's coming out, and it's got these.
That's my product brochure. And
that's your product brochure.
Yeah.
The product brochure kind of makes me think of the city whenever I see it.
Okay.
What is going to happen there, do you think? Because it seems, we are a nation. We don't really make things, but we are fantastic at customer service, and we are fantastic at financial services. We're brilliant at providing that kind of service industry. And of course, there is talk that the city could actually lose out because of Brexit. Do you think that'd be the case?
Does anybody seriously think that?
Well, I'm asking you. I don't know.
I don't think that's going to be the case. London's always been a centre of banking and commerce and that sort of service industry. It always has been. It's been known internationally so. We actually sit in a very apt time zone as well. That kind of helps,
that helps.
Ironically. And whilst there's talk about companies that are looking to, and have done already, leased offices in Frankfurt, as a friend of mine, a very good contact of mine in the city said, who's in this banking industry, he said to me, does anybody seriously think that tens of thousands of people are actually going to go to Frankfurt, of all cities, to work. I mean, he said you can just imagine the scenario. You know, the other half coming back from work one day from the city and telling their other half, guess where we're moving to? Frankfurt. And the response being, oh, how fantastic. Unlikely. Look, London has always been respected as the centre for banking, for commerce, for this type of industry, for the service we give, for being that international hub, and I don't think that that's necessarily going to change.
Is this also going down to the fact it's the international language for financiers?
There's that as well. And I think, what's never reported, there are actually banks moving into the City of London from outside of the UK. That's happened. Maybe not in big numbers.
In the last 18 months?
In the last 18 months, yeah. Yeah, I think I can't reveal who, but I know that there's been banks moving into the city from outside London that have considered it since the Brexit. It's actually, but of course that doesn't make good news, does it? Who would be interested in hearing that sort of news? How would that help the political arguments in Westminster?
We're not fooling ourselves here, are we? I mean, we're not sitting out. I mean, I know both of us are. I mean, I'm trying to stay independent, but you know, I too am a pro-exit here. I know that Gordon, who is on buttons, can't remember, what did you do, Gordon? Oh, he's exit as well. Linda, of course, was a stay-inner, a Remainer. But we're not trying to justify our decision, are we?
No.
Good. Just checking on that.
I think that's somewhat immature, isn't it?
Well, thank you.
Look, at the end of the day, what's going to happen? I remember talking to a senior Conservative politician who they voted to remain, and I said, well, I voted to leave, and they said, I don't think in 5 years' time it's going to make any difference. I think it will just be absolutely fine. That was their view. Look, again, the problem with all of this is that it's distracting those people that are watching this programme and are running a business. It's distracting them from their day-to-day activity of getting on with it. And so I'll repeat my message. Do not let any of this stuff that we cannot control adversely affect your business. And I would say to people, look at your business at the moment. What is the sales cycle from when you actually talk to a potential customer to when they actually give you an order? If that's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and by the way, if you don't understand it, get to understand it quickly. But look at your business, because you don't want to be here in 9 months' time without a business, because for sure, as eggs is eggs, you will have no business. Having said to yourself, I only wish I'd started 9 months ago and ignored all this nonsense. We cannot do anything about the Brexit situation and the negotiations. I think the negotiations are going better than what we want to be told, but irrespective of if they're going well or not, we still have to eat each month. Everybody has responsibilities to family, to employees, to pay their taxes. And to do that, you have to run a successful business.
So focus on your business. Focus
on your business. If you're going to worry about something, worry about where the next order is going to come from and figure out how you're going to do it.
So would I be right in saying then, don't panic, carry on?
I think panic is probably the wrong. If you want to phrase that,
don't panic, carry on.
I would say don't panic, but just focus on what you need to do next. Because I remember once an old sales manager of mine said to me, you know what, there's very rarely anything that can't be fixed by the next order. If your cash flow is poor, the next order will help to fix it. If you've not got enough money in the bank, the next order will help to fix it. If you've not got enough customers, the next order will fix that problem too. Focus on the next order. Take it step by step. Understand what you have to do to get the next order. And interestingly, what made me smile a second ago was when you said to everybody, you can also call in. You know, I think, Steve, we've actually invented technology the wrong way around. I think we should have started with text, then email, then internet, and then somebody should have gone, hang on a second, I've just invented this thing called a telephone. And do you know what it will do? You can actually speak to people direct. When you pick the phone up, the other person that you want to get hold of will actually speak to you directly. And they'll go, well, that's ridiculous. I think I'd rather text them.
It'll never catch on.
It'll never catch on. Pick the phone up, folks. Pick the phone up. There's no substitute for not picking the phone up. And I talk to a lot of customers and businesses who don't seem to understand that. They do eventually when I get and work with them. And remember, if you've got salespeople The only true value of a salesperson is their ability to create something out of nothing, and that starts by picking the phone up and talking to a potential customer. That's how it works.
Now, we're not going to go down the route of talking about sales, but
No.
you know, you're talking
Sure.
there about practical actions to take.
Yeah.
So that's the sales part of it. Pick the phone up, continue growing your business, developing your business, making certain that there is income coming in. What about things like marketing? I mean, should we be looking at marketing? Should we be looking at recruitment? A lot of people are putting all these kind of things on hold. Are these other practical things that we should be concentrating on?
Well, I mean, you've just very kindly just mentioned my new branding. Over the summer, you start to think about your own business and how you can develop it, make it better, smarter, leaner, all the things that I teach other people to do. And I don't know, every 3 or 4 years I tend to go through a revamp of what I'm doing. And yes, over the summer I rebranded my business because I looked at what I was doing and thought, actually, I'm actually delivering the product or service, if you want to call it that, of being a sales director for virtually every customer that I'm dealing with, who've got a small sales team and they don't know how to run it, manage it, etc., etc. So I thought, well, why don't I just rebrand and actually make it really obvious what it is that I'm offering? So marketing and looking at what you're doing and how you're doing it, revamping your paraphernalia, revamping your website, I think it's critical. I think it's critical to the way that you then readdress your own business. You start to think about what you're doing in your own business, because it's strange, isn't it? We only start to think about what our business is about when we're trying to explain it to somebody else. That's when you start to understand your business, when you have to explain it to somebody else. And typically, you're trying to explain your business to a potential new customer. So, do we need to look at our marketing? Absolutely right. Do we need to revamp it? Well, I did. Do we need to make sure that it's going to the right potential customer base? Yes, we do. So, again, my message is focus in, be completely selfish, focus in on your business and look at it at where do I need to be in a year's time.
Now, you're meant to be the expert, so we're actually talking here about you looking at your own business. What surprised you about what you were doing that you felt you were getting, that you weren't getting quite right, and what did you change?
Well, what I changed was I had essentially three services that I was trying to promote. Consultancy, I'll come in and we'll look at your business and we'll look at how you can get leaner, smarter, better. And within that, there's a sales element in it. The other thing was to have a long-term relationship with a client in terms of let's have a 4-year plan of where we get this business from A to B. And the third product was a sales director. I realised that actually there was companies out there, customers out there that had 2, 3 or 5 salespeople, and it was the owner trying to do it. And I thought, well, do you know what? Let me look at all those products and see if I can narrow it down to just one, and focusing on just one. And focusing is really, really important. To clarify and crystallise exactly what you're doing and laser point onto one particular product, and that's what I thought I would do for myself. That's what I did.
It's very interesting you say that. I was actually, if you listened back tomorrow night from last week's edition of the programme, he said that you should be laser focused on what you're trying to achieve. I also I was at a meeting where we had a number of keynote speakers, and one of the speakers there was actually talking about the fact that all businesses should be laser focused on one particular area. And even if you go to our website, for instance, there's a multitude of things that we offer. But if we were to focus on one thing, then we would be, all our thoughts, we would be laser focused on that, and that's what we would go after. And the question was, if you do that, do you then exclude the other work that you did, or do you still find that still comes in?
It still comes in, because it does.
That's exactly what he said as well.
Sometimes by default, it just comes in by default. I think the idea of focusing on one, I think sometimes you can focus on if you've got a myriad of products, you can focus on your top 3. But the idea of focusing actually means that your activity starts to be very, very direct towards the type of customer that you're looking for. And the mere fact of doing that actually starts to produce more business. So it's about changing the way you think. My book that's about to come out, what I'm really saying there is, this book is about changing the way that you think. Yes, there's some stuff that you have to do. There's some activity, there's some process, there's some strategy. But fundamentally, it's about changing the way you think. And by focusing in on something, actually concentrates your mind and your thought process, and therefore your actions, on that one thing. And by doing that, you get more business.
By doing that, you're going to get yourself more business. My guest on today's show is Antonio Falco. He is the sales director. We're talking about taking responsibility within your business to make certain that you succeed regardless of Brexit. Hope you're enjoying today's program. I always find it really interesting when Antonio comes in because it just gives us an opportunity to chew the cud and to really find out a little bit more about, what we should be thinking about. I think it's very easy when you're working. It's the old thing about working in your business or for your business,
exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think all of us that are in business, I mean, you're a business owner, aren't you? You're a business owner, or you'd like to be. What are the mistakes that every business owner is going to make? And sometimes, busy fools, you often hear that expression, don't you? And you're trying to be all things to all men. Well, would it not be better to be just one thing to all men so that everybody knows exactly? I mean, think about it for a moment. If somebody said to you, give me your 1 minute on your business. What is your water cooler pitch about what you do? Would you be able to do that right now? In fact, I'm going to ask you in a moment to do that about your business. So that'd be interesting to hear how you construct your water cooler pitch as well, how you describe and explain what you're doing now and how you help businesses. Okay?
Sure.
There you go. See? As if it was rehearsed. It wasn't. We just walked in here. We just sat down and we're doing it. Let's go back and look at one of our past programmes, Why Silence is Never Golden in Business. It was Business Connections Live 185. Our guest on the show was Ian Dixon, an old friend of the programme, international business speaker and multi-award winning business coach. He asked the question, why silence is never golden in business? How do you raise your profile, encourage new customers and keep existing ones? Were the questions that were posed. Making a noise in business is all about sticking your head above the parapet, telling people you're there, but it's not just about talking, it's also about the behind the scenes techniques that you can do to make your business voice heard. Are you allowing your business voice to be heard? You should watch the entire show. You'll get some hints from Ian Dixon. Just to give you a bit of a tease, here's what he said on the programme.
Hi there, my name is Ian Dixon. I am an international business speaker and award-winning business coach. Today I have been talking to Steve about all sorts of things and I want to just give you my sort of big takeaways, if you like. So, money loves speed, critical. If you don't demonstrate on your website how quickly you can deliver your product or service, you need to make sure that you change that. Have an outstanding About Us page on your website is critical. When anybody is giving you some advice or an opinion, stop and assess, is this advice or is it an opinion? And advice very clearly is something based on expertise, knowledge, understanding and experience. And one other, understanding what success means to you and why you're in business at all. So I think probably there's a few. I could just keep going and going and going, to be honest.
Ian Dixon there, great show as well. If you do get an opportunity, watch the entire programme. You will find it. It is Business Connections Live 185, went out on the 26th of June earlier on this year. Award-winning business speaker and multi-award-winning business coach. You won any awards? You must have an armload of them.
No, Steve, because I've never entered any.
Some people say that you should, don't they? Not
Yeah.
When I say that, I don't mean you should.
No.
I mean the businesses should, because it's just something else to put on the CV nearly. Isn't it?
Absolutely right, and I don't disagree with this, and I would encourage people to enter awards. It's just not my thing.
Not your thing to do. You're watching Business Connections Live. We're live on a Monday. My guest in today's show is Antonio Falco. He's the sales director. We are focusing on the next sale regardless of Brexit and some of the things that you should be doing. It's been an interesting conversation. I did ask you, what is your 1 minute pitch about what you do? To give us an example of how we should all prepare, really, our minute pitch on our own businesses.
I think you have to pick out a couple of key salient points that you think that your audience are going to want to hear. But the problem, but let me just say, my book Stop Pitching, Start Selling is all about avoiding trying to throw something out there or everything that you've got in your head out there, hoping that something will stick, because that doesn't work, and actually I think devalues your business.
So I meet you in the elevator though, and wanting not to devalue your business. Antonio, what do you do?
Well, Steve, let me ask you, what's your business about? You're clearly in business yourself. What do you do? I quickly turn it around because I need to understand something about you before I can actually put my put my spin on that, so it's relevant to you. You see, pitching means you're just trying to throw as much as you can out there. Presenting means you're doing it based on some information, because you have to be able to turn it on its head so that you actually make it relevant for the person that you're talking to. Even if it's, I mean, I do quite a lot of public speaking, and I never prepare what on earth I'm going to talk about, because I like to, if I can, engage with the audience beforehand, before I get up and speak, just to find out what sort of audience I'm talking to, so that I can say something relevant to them. But that's why a lot of the time when I do a lot of public speaking. I do for one particular organisation. I'll talk about that in a second. I tend to do a 10 or 15 minute talk about topics that I've heard people talk about whilst I've been milling around with them, so that I can make it relevant. But then I hand over to the audience. It's you. I keep saying it's your show, not mine. Ask me whatever question it is that you think is relevant to your business, and I'll try and answer it. Not a lot of speakers can do that, by the way. So that you have to make it relevant for people. But if you really want to know what I'm about, it's quite simple, Steve. As you know, I've been on the programme many, many times talking about sales and business development. If you are a business that have got 2, 3, 4 salespeople and you're trying to run them and they're not operating how you want them to, in other words, not delivering the goods, I'm the man that can fix it. There you go.
Nice and short. The man that can fix it. Okay then, let's look at some practical advice then for businesses out there. We're worried about Brexit. We're holding back a teeny weeny bit at the moment. We don't know how to bring or move the business forward. What practical actions then can we take?
Okay, so if you feel that your business is stalling because you're allowing outside influences to stall it. Number one, as I said earlier on, business is about taking risks, but we want to take calculated risks. We talked about marketing. I talked about the fact that I looked at my branding and marketing over the summer. So I would say, look, if you've got to be from A to B in 6 months' time, in other words, you want your business to have grown by 10, 15%, whatever your target is, and by the way, here's one clue in itself, set yourself a target. Where is it you want to be? And still, lots of people don't do that. Lots of businesses don't do that. Lots of businesses that you think are quite sophisticated don't do that. You have to have a starting point and an end point. You have to know where you're going, because that will drive some of the activities, some of the marketing that you do, some of the, even the electronics are getting excited, some of the marketing that you do, some of the sales activity that you do, some of the events that you go to. Sit down and figure out, where is it I'm trying to be? You've got a £1.5 million business, you've got 15 people working for you, you've grown 5, 6, 7% over the past few years. Actually, you think your business should be at £2 million in the next 18 months. Okay, if that's where you think you should be, and you've got reason and logic behind it, your product's great, your staff are great, your service is great, the market's ready for it, you haven't exploited enough people because you haven't done the activity, great. There's the reasoning behind it, so there's your target. Now you can come back and go, right, what do we need to do that? Are my salespeople properly incentivised and targeted? Have we got our marketing paraphernalia right? Does it need a revamp? Does our website need a revamp? So it now starts to create a set of activity that you need to go through. It's all driven by where you want to be. This is not rocket science, Steve. We've talked about this 100 times. Why are we not running smart, intelligent, focused, lean, mean businesses? It's because, you know what? We don't know where we're going with it. We don't know where we're going with it.
Do you think people just sit back on past successes then, and they allow the momentum of their business to carry them forward?
I met a company a couple of weeks ago whose figures are going south quite dramatically, and that was exactly the situation they were in. They'd had a fantastic set of success a couple of years back, and they were riding that wave, and then all of a sudden it dropped off.
A wise old soothsayer once said to me, the trouble is that the time you should be building your business is on the upward slope of the curve. That's when you're doing it. Absolutely, and invariably it's too late if you're on the downward spiral.
Absolutely right. I keep saying to people, when you're not busy, make that many calls. Make sure your business, your sales activity is like this. When you're really busy and there's a lot going on in your business, you're delivering product services to lots of customers, then you do that much. because you probably won't have time to do any more. But the key is you're always doing something. You're never not doing some sort of sales activity. You're never not doing some marketing. You might argue about the volume, but you're always doing something. And I'm absolutely right. The best time to go and get more customers is when you've got lots already.
Do you ever fire customers?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they don't meet several reasons. One, they don't meet the criteria of a customer that I'm looking for, and they just don't fall into my criteria anymore. But primarily, they're just not listening to what I'm saying.
You've got to listen to what you're saying.
You're not going to. I think it's lacks integrity to take money off people, of businesses that are just not listening to what you're saying. And the other reason is, do you know what? You've got them to a certain point. You've got them to a point where the machinery's working and they need to be left alone to actually run their own business. I'm not there to run their business for them indefinitely. I'm there to actually put a process in place to get the people where they need to be and to get that machinery up and running.
What about motivation within business these days? Because we were talking at the very beginning of the programme about making decisions within our business because of Brexit. At the moment, there's nearly this lack of motivation because we feel that we are, as we said, we're in the doldrums, we're waiting for something to happen. We don't know what it is. We probably won't recognise it when it does happen, but we're kind of waiting at the moment. Our business is in the doldrums. How do we motivate ourselves out of that? And what techniques would you suggest for a business to motivate itself and its teams, its staff, its people that are in there, and also to motivate its customers as well, so that they react and they actually do buy product or whatever?
Very interesting you should say. We're waiting for something to happen. Here's the first thing. Why don't you just make something happen? You know, I think the theme of the programme is, what was the theme of our programme today? Making it happen, you know, irrespective of
in
Brexit.
business, it's down to me.
It's down to me. If it's meant to be, it's down to me. Why don't you make things happen? People keep saying to me, "Oh, this isn't happening, and I'm not doing this, and I can't." And they think I don't see. Hold on a second. Let me just stop you. Why don't you be the one? Instead of waiting for leadership, why don't you be the leader? Instead of you waiting for the market to move, why don't you be the one that moves it? You see, motivation. They keep talking about self-motivation. There's no such thing as being self-motivated. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, "Oh, I'm motivated." What motivates you is external things. Now, to some people, it could be, "I've got to pay the mortgage this month." There's a motivator. To some people it is, "I want to take my team for a fantastic dinner next month if we have a great month." To some people it could be that I need to buy a new car. To some people it could be that they want to have a really nice holiday because they've been in business for 10 years and haven't been on one for years. There's no such thing as just being internally motivated. Something has to externally motivate you. So when you're analysing your business and you're trying to figure out where you need to be and setting that target, what you have to do is you have to set some achievements on the way. You have to set some little prizes on the way. So, you know,
are we good at goal setting then, do you think?
No, because I think there's an awful lot of nonsense talked about goal setting. I think there's an awful lot of nonsense talked about motivation and being self-motivated. It's all nonsense, Steve. It's very, very simple, okay? If you're
There's a whole industry going, all the motivational speakers are going,
look, here's my view. I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible for people. Okay, if you're in business, you need to set a target, because otherwise, if you don't move forward, you're going backwards. If you're in business, you need to say to yourself, we need to be lean, smart, and focused, which means that we need to understand what our product is trying to do for somebody, and we need to figure out who it is that's going to buy it. And then when we've done that, we pick the phone up and we go and talk to people. And we stop trying to give ourselves 100 different reasons why we're not going to do that. That's what's stopping people. It isn't reading the next motivational book. You know, if you're
do you actually think it's a load of cobblers, a lot of it?
I'll tell you what, Steve, if you're motivated enough to get up in the morning, to go down to the bookstore and find a motivational book, I would suggest you're already motivated.
Yes.
Let's not make it difficult. We're trying to overanalyze this.
Are we looking for excuses, do you think? Are we trying? It's nearly the manana, isn't it? We're trying to put off till tomorrow what we could do today, but if we've got the intent to do it tomorrow, then that's nearly good enough.
Well, I keep saying, just steel yourself. get a hold of yourself and go, do you know what? I'm going to stop messing about. I'm just going to get on with it. Yes, not everybody's going to want to buy from me, but I'm just going to look for the one that does. That's part of the fun of it. The fun of running your own business is to actually take a hold of yourself and say, actually, what can I actually do? Have I got the gumption to actually get out there and do it? And then when you've made it, do you know what? You know why. There's no quick fix. I keep saying, the problem we have now is that everybody wants everything done in a hurry. Everybody wants success overnight. We switch the TV programme on and we watch these youngsters singing a song and they're going to become pop stars and multimillionaires overnight. Life ain't like that. Actually, I'd rather we have programmes about business people who day in, day out are getting up in the morning and they're trying to make it happen. That to me is more motivation than watching a youngster sing and becoming a blinking overnight pop star.
All right, listen, more from Antonio Falco. Just a few moments' time. Mr. Grumpy now, the sales director, talking about focusing on the next sale regardless of Brexit. You're sitting there going, But I think you're very right. I do think you're very right. And it's interesting. The latest edition of The Apprentice, of course, is on at the moment. And we had Julianne Ponan on the programme a couple of weeks back, and of course what she was saying, it's made for television. It is only television. She was on Dragon's Den, and of course they're making television to be entertaining. Quite frankly, I think they must get rid of all the people that have got any business acumen for The Apprentice, and they go, how outrageous can you be? I mean, last week's one, we were talking about motivation. So, are we going to go out there and sell? Yes! I've never been in a room where that's actually ever been done like that.
It's a nonsense, and it's interesting. Julianne used to be a customer of mine, so that's always nice to have that connection, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyone think it was planned?
I would say to people this: on BBC One, you've got The Apprentice. On BBC Two, you've got what I think are real heroes, and that is stories about the British Army and what they're currently doing in different parts of the world, trying to help people to get out of whatever tragedy that they've actually got into, whether it's an earthquake or a war or something. So if you really want to watch something worthwhile, forget BBC One. Switch on to BBC Two and you'll feel real heroes. There you go.
Other channels are available, of course. You're watching Business Connections Live. Great to have your company. We're live here on a Monday. My guest today is Antonio Falco. By the way, thousands of you every month are downloading the programme. Thank you very much indeed. On iTunes. iTunes is a huge audience. Yes, we're going out on the likes of Ustream. We're going out on Periscope. Hello, just keep banging that little button there that shows that you like what you're actually seeing. We're on Facebook too right now. Very shortly we're going to be on Daily Motion and a whole host of different video platforms. And in the future, of course, you can always listen to a program on Stitcher, Blueberry, and a whole host of podcast platforms as well. And that's really important to us because it gets the message out there. But iTunes is a phenomenally successful platform when it comes to delivering messages just like this one. Now, if you find the programme useful today, please do leave a 5-star review after the programme. All you've got to do is just watch the programme on your iTunes account, but just go into iTunes, find the show, and then go to ratings and reviews. Click on that, and what you can do when you do that, that'll then take you to a tab that says write a review. Leave a 5-star review. Tell us how great you think the advice is from Antonio today. That would be absolutely fabulous. Now, what will happen then is anybody else watching one of the other business programs, of which there are thousands, because of your review, hopefully the analytics and the algorithms within iTunes will then recommend Business Connections Live to them, and they will then get the benefit of what you've learned from the programme and also what the individuals will they get the benefit from our guests as well, for that matter. It really is. It's a great way of helping us. It helps us grow the programme as well for all the people that download it each and every month. Thank you very much indeed. But please do not forget to leave the review, because that makes all the difference to us here from our little studios in London. You're watching Business Connections Live. We're focusing on the next sale, regardless of Brexit, what you should be doing, what you should be considering. Joining me in the studio today is Antonio Falco. He is the sales director. Let's just very quickly look at the brochure that you've got here at the moment, the sales director. Now, people can download this from your website.
Yes.
The business has grown by 50% last year alone. The business owners now have a clear structure for sales and business development. That's Richard Catton from, is it Janus Technology?
Janus.
So some good reviews there. I love this, the three key elements. Getting the people right within your business, the most precious asset. Actually having a strategy. How many of us have a strategy that we actually are clear on in our own right? And then the numbers, it seems straightforward, but you know, sometimes we don't think about the numbers. How many times do you call? How many times do you email? How often do you have sales meetings? How often do you get proposals out there? And what do you do in your presentations and demonstrations? You know, this is a good starting point. It also shows the services that Antonio supplies to businesses as well. Yep. How important are those? Is that strategic approach to business, do you think?
Well, they're just, again, come back to your earlier point about marketing. I just sat down over the summer and thought, you know, what's my philosophy when it comes to sales? What are the key elements? I try to focus it down to three, and they're the three that I've come up with. And by the way, just the brochure will go through. That's my philosophy. What my process for how I work with clients, and what you'll get in terms of results. So, what is the job of a sales director? What are the elements that I focus on? What's the process for actually me delivering what I deliver? They'll be able to read all that. And then what is it you're getting? What are the results you're getting? So back to your question, strategy. Yeah, I walk into lots of companies who most don't have one. Some think they have one. And then when you explore it with them, it's very sort of loose and woolly. So I think a strategy is important. I know it's an overused word, and I know it's a bit pedantic as well, but actually you need to understand what is it we're trying to do as a business. Who are we trying to? Again, there's nothing new, is there? Really, you know, what is it we're trying to? Who are we trying to sell to? How are we going to do it? Why do we think they're going to buy it? What is it they need to hear from us? What market sectors are we going to go for? Why are we going to go for that market sector? How are we going to expand out from there? What's our plan for the next 12 to 18 months to go from A to B? How are we going to do that? That requires some thought, and if you have to sit down and think about it, then it actually gives you clues as to what you need to do next. So every morning when you walk in, you have some idea of what activity you need to do. So if you've got a plan and a strategy, that starts to prompt you as to what you need to do next, instead of just coming in and going through the motions, which a lot of people do.
Now, I'm very interested as well in the fact that you've used, is this a proper brochure? Is this something you post, or is this electronically delivered?
Both.
It's both.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth businesses that are watching this at the moment, is it worth them considering that, because a lot of people think they can do everything online. What kind of responses have you had back? Is the online bit supported by a telephone call? Is all of it supported by telephone calls?
All of it's supported by a telephone call.
Do you get better response from a piece of documentation that's in somebody's hand?
Well, you see, there's the brochure you see there. I've actually also developed a little DL leaflet as well off the back of that, and that I send out to prospective customers. The sort of customers that I've already done some homework on. I say prospective customers because they're prospects at this stage. They're not a customer yet. So I've analysed what I think what I want my target market to be, and I send stuff in the post to them, and then I follow up with a phone call. And then afterwards, after that phone call, in the next step of my process of converting them from a prospect to a customer, I will either send them a hard copy of that, or I'll point them to the website where they can download a soft copy of it. Because what I'm trying to do in my process is I'm trying to create a number of opportunities where I'm engaging with them, either by mail, electronically, by phone, then a meeting. So by the time we actually have a conversation about how they are going to engage me and buy my services, they've had 3 or 4 opportunities of touch points. I hate that very touch points with me. So I have, you know, I've got a process that I go through for my own business where I'm trying to warm a potential customer up. So I've got a process.
What about the fact that what you're providing is a service and not a product as such? Do you think there are differences for different industries? So you're selling, effectively you're selling you to go in and do something.
Yes.
If I'm selling a pair of glasses, it's a very different approach, isn't it?
What my areas of work are business to business. I don't really focus in on business to consumer. So that's a consumer product. But yes, I think there's a different approach if you're selling a service or a piece of hardware. And that's why I deliver different solutions to different clients depending on what it is they're selling.
So is it a case of identifying once again who the ideal client is going to be?
Always, you have to start somewhere, Steve. You can't just have a scattergun approach of, I think I've got a really fantastic new pneumatic drill that everybody's going to want to buy. No, of course not. That's ridiculous. You have to have some, back to that word again, focus.
Cautionary tales then, what should we be thinking about? What are the things we should be cautious of? Where are the things that we shouldn't do? Where shouldn't we go in business, in your opinion?
Well, I think that you have to have a rule in-house that says whatever happens, we're always going to deliver the very best we can, no compromise. Whatever product or service you're delivering, everybody knows, whether they become a customer or not, that it was going to be the very best possible. So no compromising on what you're delivering. That's the first thing. Always, because reputation's a hard won and very easily lost. So whether you win a customer or not, you always have to be able to walk away, them knowing that they may not have done business with you this time, but they're certainly going to do it next time. So never compromise on your product or service when you're delivering. The other don'ts. Don't start off by thinking that everybody's going to want to buy your product or service. Again, focus in on a market sector that you might already know about. So, for example, I met somebody the other day. They've just got out of the corporate world. They've started their own marketing business, and quite logically, they're focusing in on the industry they've just come out of, because they can talk fluently and intelligently about what's happening in the industry, where they think it's going, and give some intelligent review of that. And what does that do? It gives the potential customer confidence in your ability, because that's what people are buying. They're buying confidence in that what you say you can deliver, because nobody truly knows till they've engaged you, till they've handed the money over. They don't actually know that they can expect what you say you can deliver. They can read as many case studies and testimonials as they want. They can talk to as many customers as they want. And isn't it funny, Steve? When I first started, I had no case studies, no testimonials. Everybody wanted one. Now that I've got hundreds, nobody's interested. And that I actually forcibly encourage potential customers to talk to some of my customers and to read some of my case studies. I don't write my own case studies. I have an outside marketing person that does them for me, and so I just put the two together, and next thing I know, it lands on my desk. So, what are the do's? The do's: focus, understand what you're trying to do, set some targets, try and figure out how you're going to get from A to B. Understand what your sales cycle is. If it's going to take you 3 months to sell a product or service, get started now. If it's going to take you 6 months, get started now. The point is, get started. But understand what your process is. Again, I go to lots of companies and they think they go for their first meeting, think that's where they're going to get the sale. Like, hang on a second. No, don't you have to do some analysis first? Don't you have to put an initial proposal together? Don't you need to review that proposal? Don't you then need to refine it? Don't you then need to talk about the price? Hold on a sec. All of a sudden, we've got a 5-step process where you think from where you thought you needed to be, where you walk in and just made the sale. Now, in some instances, of course, that's how it happens. It happens on that first meeting. But all I'm saying to people is understand what your process is, because unless you understand what your process is, what we're then doing is we're expecting a potential customer to understand what the process is. How on earth does anybody know how your business runs? I have to walk through with my potential customer what the next step is. Well, most companies don't know what the next step is. They don't know how their prospective customer goes from becoming a prospective customer, so that first conversation, to when they actually get the order from them, to when they get their business. They don't know what that process is. Well, if you don't know what it is, how on earth can you expect your potential customer to know what it is? So, the do's: focus, set a target, understand what your process is, learn actually what it is you're trying to sell, understand why somebody would buy it, understand what your features are. And in my new book coming out, there's a chapter on features and benefits, and it's called The Benefit Myth. Because we all think we've got lots of benefits. We have no benefits. All we have is a load of features that might be a benefit to somebody. What you have to do is to figure out which of your features are benefits to somebody.
He's on a roll there, isn't he?
Sorry.
And we're nearly at the end of the programme as well. Now, we always ask, and I feel you've done it, but for fear of repeating yourself, we always ask all our guests to give us the key takeaways, which you've kind of already done, but I'm going to make you do them anyway because we'll use them somewhere else. But the key takeaways for today's programme, say who you are, where you're from, straight down camera number 4, the airways, Antonio, are all yours.
Thank you. My name is Antonio Falco and I'm the Sales Director. What I would say to you is this. If you are running a small business or a business, we want you to be successful because without businesses like yours being successful, we have no economy, we have no taxes, we have no country, and we have no jobs. So the key is to be successful. To be successful, get focused. Understand what it is you're trying to sell and to who, and try and understand what they need to hear in order to buy your product or service. And to do all of that, pick the phone up and speak to people. As much as we'd like them to come to us, I think it's better if we try and control our own destiny by picking the phone up and trying to get to speak to people about how we can help them. Your business is about how you can help somebody, not just about taking money from them.
My thanks to Antonio Falco for joining us on today's programme. Hopefully getting you more prepared for future business, even though Brexit is just around the corner. What's going to come out of it all? Well, who knows? But really, we should be just getting on and getting out there and doing business. My thanks once again, Antonio, for joining us today. And that probably wraps up today's program. Next week's program is going to be another great show as well. Steve Mills, the prudent marketeer, is going to be coming into the studio, and he's got a good show all lined up. He's asking the question, when is an asset not an asset within your business? So you can find out more about that on next week's program, live at 12 o'clock on Monday. Steve Mills, the prudent marketeer. Future programs, well, we've got Martine Robbins, owner of the HR department. Linda Bazant, she's going to be coming from the office outside and coming in and talking about GDPR. She's a lawyer and consultant. Louise Punter, CEO of Surrey Chamber of Commerce, and Stuart Miller from Warwick Legal, along with Sylvia Baldock, who is a speaker when it comes to image. That wraps up today's show. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Listen, we'll catch you again next week. Have a great week. Bye for now.